So today we have Peter Quinn from San Diego with us, and Peter has been in the business for quite a long time. Peter, it's great to have you. I just love to hear kind of your origin story of how you got into real estate. That would be fun to hear.
Thank you, Bruce. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Well, probably like a lot of people who've wound up in real estate of any kind, unless you were, born into it, your mom or dad was a residential real estate broker or a strip center developer or an apartment developer or something. I just stumbled into it. I was a IBM employee out of college.
Wow.
Half of my pals, or at least half of my pals, after 3 or 4 years at IBM, said, it's great training, but these guys over here in commercial real estate are making a lot of money. So as they started to matriculate out of that technology environment, I followed suit. I made up my mind that I was going to work for what I considered to be the best real estate company at that particular time. So I interviewed with Coldwell Banker Commercial Real Estate, as it was known back then, now known as CBRE. And after 6 months of interviews,
Whoa.
19 interviews,
Whoa.
they finally relented and hired me. And it was it was a magical experience. I knew nothing about real estate, but I had two great mentors at CBRE. I was in their Newport Beach office, which at that particular time was the highest grossing per salesperson office in CB's national network.
Wow.
And so there was so much to learn and so many crazy personalities that, could show me the shortcuts of, how to identify deals and then make sure that I took the long road to accomplishing that on behalf of my clients. And after 5 years, I was recruited away by a Trammell Crow spinoff to develop office and industrial product in San Diego. So moved my family from Orange County to San Diego.
Oh, wow.
We've been in the same house now for almost 39 years. And next week, God willing, the remodel will be done and we'll be back in it.
The remodel.
The hardest thing I've ever done. Totally the hardest thing I've ever done.
I won't even torture you with the fact that my wife and I have remodeled. I can't even count now. I think it's 9 homes. But anyway, we're gluttons for punishment.
You are a stronger man than I, that's for sure.
Well, so wait a minute. So did you start out in sales at IBM?
Yes. Yeah, I was with their office products division, which was sort of the low-hanging fruit. I wasn't smart enough to get into the data center division, but it was amazing experience in terms of training and discipline. And I can't thank IBM enough for, taking a chance on me, and which allowed me to, move on to what I was aspiring to, in commercial real estate. And I've been in commercial real estate ever since. And it's been a really fun, wild ride, not without heartache, as I know you well know. But I love the business. I love the people I work with. And after several different development partnerships, of which I was a principal, in '08, we shut down our last partnership. I was in partners with a fellow named Bob Voigt, who is a Southwest regional commercial developer, fantastic man, just ran a superb company, and pivoted back to providing corporate real estate services, which is essentially what I was doing in the development business. I was building buildings for companies. So you had to sort of know what they wanted. And it's what I did while I was in commercial real estate full time. It's finding companies that needed help.
So going back to this early CB days, were you cold calling? What were you doing early on?
So Orange County was in the infancy of its transition from a farming community. That sounds sort of weird, but I mean, there was a ton of farmland between the Mission Viejo company and the Irvine company.
Right.
Don Bren, who currently is the majority owner, maybe the sole owner of the Irvine company, bought out the Irvine family and other high net worth individuals, and stated that his goals, he wanted to develop the Irvine company properties, which were thousands and thousands of acres, in his lifetime. He's in his 90s now. He did unbelievable things in his life, and
Yeah.
it basically set in motion a group of developers, mostly refugees from the commercial real estate brokerage business, who at the time in the 80s, you could go raise money from friends and family, and you could buy a piece of dirt and go get a savings loan to loan you the money and go build a 50,000 square foot industrial building. And the market was so interested in being in the Orange County market that it attracted companies from all over the world. And these small developers wound up being big developers. Don Cole, probably the most prolific of the group, but it was just an exciting environment. 10-year-old industrial buildings being torn down to be replaced with office buildings. Unheard of. That's unheard of.
Yeah, that was the heyday of the go-go world of real estate.
Right. And so to answer your question directly, I was a dirt guy. So I literally mapped every single piece of industrial, vacant commercial real estate to the consternation of my support staff. I come back with this tape, 4 hours of driving around, southwest corner of Fountain Valley Boulevard and whatever. And so I just developed books, put together marketing plans, contacted owners, sold land to developers and users. The developers would most often hire the team that sold them the land if they were capable. So I was lucky enough to be surrounded by people who were very capable in the leasing end. And once we had the projects leased, then I would partner up with an investment salesperson and we would sell the leased investment property.
Oh, wow.
That's how I learned the business. In the 5 years that I spent at CB, I should have probably stayed longer, but it was extraordinary, the opportunity to learn and participate in that growing market.
So, okay, so let's this is an interesting idea. So you had these books full of land and owners, and that was your kind of farm, so to speak.
Correct.
So now let's jump to today. How do you now do any of that kind of farming and information? Are you on CoStar only? What are you using these days?
That's a great question. I'm using LandVision a bit with our team. I'm using artificial intelligence to sift through data sets that we're developing. I have stumbled into a couple of markets in the last 3 or 4 years that have been prolific. Coastal residential properties are in high demand throughout LA, Orange, San Diego counties, Ventura, Santa Barbara. I mean, if you can find developable residential properties, there are more buyers than there are sellers.
Oh, wow.
So I've spent quite a bit of time doing that. And then one of my partners sold properties in this is the other end of the earth, Palmdale, Lancaster market.
I don't know that market. Where is that?
So it's northeast of LA. It is the industrial market of last resort.
Oh, okay.
It is Lockheed Martin, I believe, is out there in a big facility. So we sold 63 acres to an Orange County-based industrial developer.
Wow.
They're going to build 1 million feet. They pay $2.35 a square foot for the dirt. 20 miles away in a market called Santa Clarita.
Wow.
That's in sort of northish LA County still, not quite in Ventura. That same 63 acres, if you could find it, and you can't, it would be $45 a square foot, not $235.
I was going to say, pre-pandemic, what were the rates pre-pandemic? I mean, what, 40, $50 a foot?
Not in Palmdale, but in even post-pandemic marketplaces in Southern California have continued to generate year-over-year gains in value on raw land, and continue to do that, even though they're overbuilt, as I'm sure you've heard, in the Inland Empire. And our Phoenix office is reporting that there's a huge glut of industrial out in the Phoenix marketplace right now of overbuilding. That's all going to come back. all going to come back.
Yeah. So, okay. So your crystal ball is basically saying, yeah, okay, we can talk about office market, but right now it sounds like industrial market may all come back fairly soon.
I think that in most markets, it hasn't really suffered as much as it has in markets where developers, investors, and lenders just sort of went, a step too far
Hmm.
in filling that pipeline. We don't have a lot of vacancy in central San Diego in industrial. It's, most of the vacancy is right along the border with Mexico.
Oh, oh, interesting.
But, that also will come back, particularly as I think we develop a closer working relationship with Mexican government and investors. It's once it all settles down, I think, those marketplaces will recover, handsomely as well.
Well, okay, so let's jump to our previous conversation about DC and the interesting leases that are going on there.
I don't have a lot of detail on it. It's just what I've been reading in the Financial Times and Wall Street Journal, excerpts from the Washington Post, New York Times. But it isn't any secret that the GSA is holding on to leased property for which there is no readily definable user in the government. And they just need to give that up. And I think that's what the new administration is going to ferret out. And, they'll probably have to buy their way out of some leases in order to make that happen, but it's going to happen. Mr. Trump and those that surround him do understand the real estate market. And they do understand that, unleased assets, even if they have rent coming in every month, they have diminished value, notwithstanding the fact that they're being ignored. So physical problems with the properties, air conditioning, ceilings, roofs, plumbing, that doesn't fare well when it goes unused for years. So I think
it sounds like the government was somehow speculating that okay, down the road we're going to need these spaces, and then it just kind of never happened, and so they're sitting kind of empty for long periods of time.
Well, I think it's, if the GSA were a good property manager,
Yeah.
they would have a database of every single property, and they would be able to sort it into what's expiring soon. They would be able to sort it to what is less than 20% vacant.
Right.
And be in communication with the various government agencies and NGOs and other people that have contact and connection with the federal government. Here's our survey. How do you like the building? Is it doing what it is you thought it would do for you? Are you still using the building? And to then take that data and cull their own field, but they're obviously not doing that.
Yeah. So there we have lots of rent being paid on empty buildings.
Right. Tax dollars at work.
Sad situation. So, all right. Well, back to San Diego and your future. So industrial looks pretty good. Biotech, maybe not so good. And office, maybe not so good. Are you involved at all in the retail market?
On a very limited basis. I've got a couple of retail tenants that found me through my social media activities. One is a regional bank based in Central California, and I drafted a very experienced retail broker out of our Irvine office, and he and I have done 11 deals in the last 15 months.
Oh, wow.
With this regional bank, who have been a joy to work with and are continuing to expand. And hopefully we'll do 10 more deals in the next 18 months. But most of my business is land or office as it relates to specific users. I do quite a bit of work in the nonprofit arena, and that includes users of both office and industrial. And again, I think the market requires a little bit of Swiss Army knife in your personality. And so when I see something that I may not be like a perfect fit for, but I can add value, as I have done in this regional bank thing, I bring somebody in. I bring Bruce in, who knows more about that particular piece of business. And, I make sure that Bruce is handsomely rewarded for, his efforts to help us close that business.
Okay, so commercial brokers out there, listen to what we're saying here, Peter. So anyway, I think that's a very good thing to do. And so in this effort to kind of move forward, how would you like to kind of see the future and collaborate with people in the future?
Well, I am old enough and humble enough to
And
understand. I just don't know
experience
everything.
enough. Yeah.
Despite what I try to convince my wife of, I really don't know everything. And there is always going to be somebody out there, literally in every piece of business I do, that has something to add that I cannot for whatever reason. And so I do some business solo, but very, very little. It's just too helpful to have partners to rely on when you can't be there to answer your client's question. And those of us, Bruce, I know you know this very well, we're not 724 in terms of having to respond to a client. Our clients expect response because of the advent of technology quickly. So we got to be able to resource information. We have to be able to package it, and we have to get it in our clients' hands as quickly as we possibly can. And you need partners very often to do that. And I'm a firm believer in that.
So do you have I assume you have a whole kind of packaging crew at Kidder that will take the information you need and want and put it into a nice package with a listing agreement or whatever else you need.
Absolutely.
Off they go. Yeah.
No, and they're so talented and so resourceful in creating, new and interesting ways to communicate information and content. Obviously, people like you and I couldn't survive without that sort of support.
Yeah. No, they're fantastic. So this brings us to the point of, okay, Peter, so you've got a number of channels that you're working with. Maybe you could describe a little bit of your social media and where people can get a hold of you.
Thank you, Bruce. So Peter Quinn at Peter Quinn at Kidder.com. That's Peter.Quinn at Kidder.com is my email address. My direct cell phone number is 858-864-8491. That is the number that I answer, even though I do have an office phone. And you can find me on LinkedIn. I have a pretty robust offering on LinkedIn with videos of conversations I had with smart people like Bruce. And I do post articles that are relevant to commercial real estate, people who have interest in commercial real estate, be they investors, developers, brokers, or service providers, accountants, insurance providers, attorneys. All of those genres have an eye on commercial real estate. It affects all of our lives. And I'd be happy to help anybody that wants to reach out.
That's fantastic. So I'm looking forward to talking to you again sometime in the near future, and I'm looking forward to putting a transaction together. One last question, which I was going to ask you earlier. Have you done work with affordable housing nonprofits? Have you sold land to them?
Yes, and working with affordable housing developers now on infill residential sites or sites that will become residential. And I think that is in Southern California, it's going to be a growing market. It is a growing market. It's not going to be.
Yeah.
And I believe there's great value to be added there. So yes, that'll be, that sort of hits a lot of hot spots for me. Land development, satisfying market needs, and working to help the community.
Yeah, all a nice package to put together. And we've been working on that ourselves up here quite a lot.
Good.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. I look forward again to speaking to you, and just hold on for a second here and we'll finish up.
Great. Bruce, thank you so much.
Thanks for being here. That was wonderful.